Let's go to the client side for a moment and do some operations on your local machine, specifically file copy. SCP is secure copy. It allows us to copy a file from our desktop to the server or vice versa. On Windows, there are some visual SCP tools, but on Mac I like using the command line, which I find more convenient. The syntax might seem odd. If you are familiar with the Unix cp command, this is roughly the same syntax, only through the network. This code is executed on my local Mac, so the first argument copies my instance of rest-builder.properties, which includes server configuration settings. That's the file we will be copying. The second argument is the destination. Since it's remote, it starts with the username on the remote machine, followed by the @ sign and the IP address of the remote machine. Then a colon is used to give the destination path on the remote machine. You will be prompted for the password of builder, at which point copy will proceed. This is a very useful command. Now that we got that out of the way, I can just copy the actual jar to the server. Same exact thing. And now back on the server, we can open a text editor and set the value of the server URL to the current IP address. Nano is a reasonably easy to use text editor, at least when compared to VI. You can use Ctrl X to exit. You will be prompted to save. Next, let's log in to MySQL. We'll be prompted for the password. We need to run the create database command. Notice that the tables will be created implicitly by JPA. The next step is to download Apache Ant, which we need in order to build the resulting application. We can unzip it in the user's home directory thanks to the unzip command we installed previously. Since the version number for Ant is a bit problematic, I'm renaming the directory Ant so the build process can find it. The mv command represents move and works as rename. I also rename the backend server. It shouldn't include the version, as we'll update it in the future and we don't want it to carry an outdated version number. Technically, it might have been more correct to use a symlink, but I want to keep things simple. You might recall we did a su builder, so I'm just exiting from that su command and returning to the root account. If I use exit from there, I will log off from the server. This command might be confusing to Windows users, since there is nothing like this on Windows. The Unix file system supports a feature called symbolic links. Essentially, it creates what looks and acts like a file or a directory, but it's really a file system pointer at a file that resides elsewhere. In this case, I created a symlink to etc initd named app backend server. Notice that it doesn't have the jar extension. This points to the jar file we have in the builder home directory. If you know Linux or Unix, this might look really weird. If you know Linux or Unix, you might be thinking, what the hell just happened? Well, the jar is really a Linux shell script too. So by placing a symlink in the initd directory, It starts working as a service just like MySQL. I can't stress enough how amazing this is. Everything works exactly like you would expect from any other service on Linux. For instance, you can see the output logs for the service under the var log directory.